Today, I'm so excited to host historian and author Deb Hunter. She was telling me a little bit, and I said, wait, stop. We got to get everything on tape so we can let everybody know about the wonderful person you are. Give us a brief intro before we dive into lots of topics that I'm super excited to talk about. So.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today, Tricia. I know you've been kind enough to work around my chemo schedule, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. I'm Deb Hunter. I was in corporate America for as a marketing and salesperson for a long time, and then went into writing kind of by accident, and ended up becoming a USA Today bestseller. Then I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and pretty much homebound, and came up with a group called All Things Tudor, simply to have something to do. And that group is now the largest Tudor history fan group on Facebook, a mailing list of over 25,000 people. Thank you. And a nice social media following. So, anyway, that's me in a nutshell. So thank you for asking and having me.
I have tons of questions now. First off, I sorry for your diagnosis, and we'll be pulling for you through that journey. I have a number of friends that have experienced that, so I know how hard it can be. We were talking before. You said, and I don't think cancer is ever a blessing, but I hear survivors and people that have gone through the process talk about silver linings, and you alluded to that before. So tell me, and you talked about that's how you started All Things Tudor. So tell me about that.
Well, it was kind of funny in a way, funny, weird, funny. I'd had a surgery and I'm so hyperactive. My doctors were concerned because I had to stay in our condo for like 2 weeks. I couldn't check the mail. I pretty much was homebound. So everybody was real concerned about how they were how they were going to keep me in. And what we ended up doing, my husband said, well, and my best friend also said, do something about this thing you talk about all the time, which is history, and Tudor history especially. So we kind of tossed around some names, and my husband said, what about All Things Tudor? So I looked, and the website was available, and he said, we'll start a Facebook group. And we started out with 40 people on August 25th of 2019. And as of today, we have 34,500. So
Wow. Yeah.
30,000 people. Isn't that wild? It's a global group. They are the nicest people. They literally make my day every day. We have scholars. We have people that just saw Becoming Elizabeth, people that have been fans since the Tudors, people that have been in love with it their whole life. So it's really an interesting group, global, and dang it, my phone. Um,
I can
sorry, I have
still
a
see
phone
you.
call.
You're all good.
It's a global group, very friendly. They share their travels with us. They share books. We're really big on books. We have like a 700 member book club. So yeah, books are my jam too. So I guess I found people that have the same historical type interest I do. So thank you for asking. I could talk about it all day.
Well, I'm not 100% obsessed with the Tudors, but a little bit obsessed with that time period because what do I have on my screen? Oh, I'm like, what do I have on my screen? It's my paperweight in the back. It looks like a glowing orb for a second. Sorry,
Oh.
distraction, squirrel. Yeah, so I watched the Tudors and I love that. And it's funny though, I went back and tried to watch it again, and I was like, wow, this was really bad, like settings. Like the first time I watched it, I loved it and I thought it looked great. It had great settings. And I went back and tried to watch it. I was like, this is really bad settings. Like, how did I not notice it the first time? But I was just so obsessed with the actors and the story that I just ignored all the stuff in the background.
Yeah.
And so and Reign is the Netflix series that's based on Mary Queen of Scots, that it was in the same time period and kind of joins Queen Elizabeth, brings in Queen Elizabeth a little bit at the end of that. So I got obsessed with Reign as well, and that has a little bit of paranormal in it, which is more my paranormal thing. I also wrote historical fantasy, I guess, about a vampire who was born in that time period. So very near and dear to my heart as well. Although I haven't read a lot of Tudor books, so I want to know about your books.
Well, I have this kind of started, oh my goodness, almost 10 years ago. I wrote what's become a bit of a cult book. You were talking about the supernatural. I worked with an astrologer and cast an astrology chart for what we can only imagine would be the moment Anne Boleyn was beheaded. And we worked from there because we don't know when she was born. And what I did was almost like an ensemble book. I took an astrology chart and put a person and what they would have been doing at the time Anne was executed and how she was feeling. Jane Seymour was actually trying on her wedding dress, believe it or not. I know most people don't realize that. So
I'm getting chill bumps right now. Sorry.
Yeah, very, very creepy to me. And they were second cousins. So it's just all very strange. But so was my book. But it was strange in the fact that people really liked it because it's difficult to write something new about a topic that's 500 years old. So I wanted to do something completely different. And that is what's known as Phoenix Rising. So, but it was that historical fantasy type thing. And my USA Today bestseller went more into the American Reconstruction, but there was a subplot about Tudor England in there. So if I ever decide to do a sequel to that, my characters can time travel back to Tudor England. So I kind of left the door open to go into that era as well.
So time travel really fits into this historical. So your books are time travel books, am I right?
Okay. I have written one or two history books. I can't recall right off. But yeah, what happened in 2020, I was asked to do a novel by a publisher. So I was going to finish a history book. And of course, with chemo haze, it's kind of hard to work with all that documentation. And then I had part of a fiction book I'd started. And I thought, well, why not take these two parts and just.
I love it.
Just do a time travel. So that's how I'll See You in My Dreams came about. She time travels in her dreams and she keeps a diary of her dreams. And the people in her real life are the people that show up in the past. But there's also a man that she doesn't know that shows up in her dreams. And then she ends up meeting him. So it's really kind of a fun, weird thing that I did. Another weird thing.
So she ends up meeting him in present real time? Oh.
Yes.
And but he looked like he looked, or?
Yeah. He looked, at first she didn't recognize him because he had his hair pulled up and she thought he was a waiter. And he was really a rock star. You know, it happens every day.
Yeah. I meet them on a daily basis. I get wedding proposals all the time.
Yeah. And so you know how it is. And people think it's written about them. I love that. That's one of the best things. But yeah, she ran into this rock star that she thought was a waiter and, you know, ended up being a rock star. And the fact that he was kind of taken with her because she didn't know who he was. And she was angry. She had just had a fight with a person she thought she was in love with. So he got to see like the real her instead of like the plastic her that, you know, because she was pretty angry and having a few drinks. So he got to see all that first. And they were a lot of fun to write.
That does sound like a lot of fun. And was
So
he a musician in her dream as well?
um,
I'm
he
asking lots of
was
questions, but you don't have to give away if it's plot spoilers.
but in her dreams, he had been a like a porter. And I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is known for trains and the train terminal. So instead of doing like the Southern riverboat antebellum kind of overworked trope, I did something out of Chattanooga with trains. And as far as I know, I don't really recall anything being written about how trains were in the 1800s. You either traveled by the river or by train. So he was just a lowly porter at the depot. So he was a musician, just played some music for a little extra money because he was so poor. So in a past life, he'd been completely different than he was in the 21st century. So you know how past lives work.
Right. Well, and that's a unique thing to have it in her dreams. But obviously it becomes a real life, another life for her as well. So
That's true. And I wanted to come up with something that was paranormal that hadn't been used before. So, and that's kind of hard to find, really, a way to go into the past. So it was almost like she would look into a mirror, and that mirror, when she saw the mirror, if you read it, you'll notice before she has these dreams, she's looking into this old family mirror. So that's kind of the trigger that sets off these dreams for her.
okay, but is she asleep when she has the dreams or is she awake?
She's asleep.
She's asleep, but then she sees the mirror and then she goes into that
Yeah.
time travel
Yeah.
world.
Kind of through the looking glass.
Oh, neat. And it's neat that it's a family heirloom because it brings in that historical reference to and you said most of the people in her dream were people that she knew in her present time, except for this
Yes.
one guy.
Except for James. She does not know James. So he's the only one. So when she meets him, it's like the puzzle pieces all start fitting together and her life suddenly starts making some kind of sense to her.
Because
Excuse
she
me.
probably thought she was crazy, right? That she had these dreams every night that just kept going and she lived this other life. And when you wake up, how do you, and if you, did she, I'm assuming she remembered the dreams then?
She keeps a diary of them.
Okay, you did say that in the beginning. Sorry.
Oh, that's
That
okay.
that sounds like a really super cool book. I am one clicking that book as soon as we're done here.
I had a book club get it, I'd say 2 months ago, and the feedback I got was so good. And hearing from that many people, they were like, you know, I love this. And it's only like 55,000 words. So, it's not going to take up 2 weeks of your life, which would be fine if it did. But, the feedback I got was good because it is original, I think. And that wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea, of course. But it was fun knowing how many people enjoyed it and saw it for what it was. And that blend of history and, a little bit of paranormal in there and,
And a love
modern.
story.
Yeah, a love story. And the main character is just a mess. I mean, her personal life is just so screwed up. And she was absolutely so much fun to write. And knowing that she finally got a happy ending, that made thrilled me that happened for her.
You sound like me because I get so attached to my characters and I can cry. Well, I'm a crier anyway, but like I can read my book over and over again and still cry.
Yes.
So to get happy endings for my characters is one of my favorite things as well. Like, reminds me a little bit. Have you read the book The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, I think? So in the Midnight Library, a contemporary woman dies, and she doesn't really know if she's really dead or not, but she tries to commit suicide. And then she goes into this library, which is this, she's in her mind or in the library, you don't really know. So it's a little bit of paranormal as well. And her librarian from childhood is there, and the librarian says, take a book off the shelf and try out another life. And so she keeps taking books off the shelves and trying out other lives, and it takes you through these alternate versions of her life until she gets, I won't tell you the end of this story, but similar but not the same, right? Like sort of.
I love that. I love that. What a great concept, especially for authors. We're all about the books. So that's very intriguing.
Right. Yeah. I liked his book. I like that. I think it's an older book. It's been around a while. My friend was like, will you read this already? And I was like, okay, I'll read it. But remind me the title of that one, because I want to write it down and I want to make sure everybody remembers that one.
Oh, thank you. It's called I'll See You in My Dreams.
I'll See You in My Dreams. What a fitting title. So that sounds amazing. What other books have you written? What do you want to talk about next?
Well, my very first one was a contemporary romance, and there was a little bit of paranormal in there, but it was kind of different. Then I did the Anne Boleyn book. I did a history book, and my USA Today bestseller. So that's been my journey so far. Mainly fiction. I'd like to write more history, but I have a magazine, so that kind of satisfies my need to write. And it's a lot easier to write a 5,000 word essay than a 3,000 word book.
Yes, you can write a couple of 5,000 word essays by the time you are a 30 to 50,000 word book.
And it's so difficult writing history because you find these rabbit holes. Well, same with fiction. You get into something and then you discover something else, and you go over here for a while, and then you pull yourself back, and then this bright shiny thing appears, and you keep having to keep yourself centered to stay on point. But it's easier for me just to do the essays, and if I'm the boss too, I don't have to worry about my deadline.
That sounds like the perfect job. Why wouldn't you want to do that job? Yeah, my last, or the book that it came out this week, but it's set in the Aztec Empire in 1521. Oh. And I did the most research I'd done for any book, and it's a mythology, fantasy, paranormal type thing. But I would do the same. I would get on these websites about the Aztec people, and I just keep going and go, and I just had to stop. I'd stop myself and say, okay, you've learned enough for what you need to learn now. You need to go write your book now. So yeah, it definitely.
You've got it. You have got it. That's exactly what happens, isn't it?
It's funny, and I think I just discovered I might be a little bit of a history buff too, because I don't think I thought that about myself, but I like learning things, and whether it's history or art or culture, I just like learning things. So I guess that's a history buff, probably.
That curiosity is probably what makes a lot of us writers in the first place, don't you think? We're curious about why people do things, or why they react the way they do, or telling a story from a different point of view maybe than our own. So that kind of curiosity is what makes us write.
Yeah, that probably is true. And like wondering what it would feel like or be like to be in a different culture, a different time, a different situation, a world where there's magic or time travel or any of those things, and discovering all those feelings and what you see and what you experience. Yeah. Maybe the need for escape, just a little bit.
A lot.
Well, what else do you want our listeners to know about you?
I have the All Things Tudor magazine. I'm currently working with 2 editors. One is Dr. Norman Jones, who is a retired professor and a graduate of Cambridge in the UK, although he's American. And the other is Terrence Hawkins, who founded the Princeton Writers Conference. So I am thrilled to have them as my literary and my history editors. And the magazine's different because we don't just focus on Tudor history, we also focus on Tudor fiction. So books that have been written about it or that were written at the time. So it's just a different way of looking at things.
That is neat. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna definitely look that up. That sounds really cool.
Thank you. It's released quarterly and we do take submissions. So right now, excuse me, we're working on the September issue, getting it to print, and then we will open up submissions for our holiday issue.
Ooh, fun. Do you have themes all year or just during the holidays?
Well, we started out in March, and that was just the first issue. So, yay, something new. Then we did Midsummer Magic for June. That's your jam right there. And September is going to be the Boleyns. And Boleyn, her family, because PBS is doing a special called The Boleyns, A Scandalous Family. So we won't be tied in with them, but it'll be about the Boleyn family. Okay. Or things that they did, foods they ate, books that have been written about them. So that's going to be our theme for September.
Oh, fun. Super fun.
And my big thing right now is my podcast. I am so thrilled with my podcast. I started it in January, and I'm just so thankful for all the listeners. I never thought I would have a popular podcast about Tudor history because I am so Southern, and it's just a shock to me when I have people say, I heard you, and it's, this is a fun podcast.
Well, so, you have 40,000 people on your All Things Tudor Facebook page. So all those people are your audience, right? They're your people, and probably you can bring in a lot more being on a podcast channel.
And they are my people, and they understand me, and they know where I'm coming from. And there's a lot of good podcasts out there. There really are. And I'm very thankful that people take the time to listen to mine. It really means a lot.
I love listening to podcasts when I'm in the car. That's what I do. That's my entertainment, or a book, a podcast or a book. What is the name of the podcast the same? All Things Tudor?
All Things Tudor.
How did I get that?
Yeah, I know that you win a special prize. So yeah, everything is All Things Tudor. There's a Instagram page, Twitter page, then the Facebook group, magazine. You can buy merchandise. Go to www.allthingstudor.com, and the blog's there, books, magazine, merch. It's all there for you.
Oh, a t-shirt is coming into my life. I know that.
And I did something different with my t-shirts. Instead of just being, I made it, of course, about me, and it says lipstick and champagne and all things Tudor.
Nice. I like it. Do you bring guests on your podcast? Do they talk about history, books, all of the above, I'm guessing?
Fun. Yes, a lot of authors, of course, because I know authors and historians that are authors. But I've really been fortunate. I've worked with Alison Weir. I'm sure everyone's heard of her. She sold more books than any British female. I have worked Professor Susanna Lipscomb, Dan Jones. You'll see him a lot on the History Channel. Good grief, we saw him the other night on something. He's just everywhere, it seems. Tracy Borman, I'm sure you've seen things by her. I'm still just kind of starstruck at the people that have been on my own podcast. And right now I'm working with PBS in a way, not for them, but with them, to help promote the new series. So most of the historians that are on the Boleyns are going to be on my podcast.
Oh, very cool.
You get the reveal. We launched the first one yesterday, and I can't believe the response to it. It's been very humbling And I'm very thankful for the support I've been receiving on that. And the historians that were on there were wonderful. We finished recording with everyone today, and just what a great group of people. So much brain power. I mean, we're talking Cambridge, Oxford, talking BBC creds, PhDs, more PhDs than I've ever encountered in my entire life. And just the thing is, though, well, New York Times bestsellers, but they are nice people. They are simply nice people, and it's really been an honor working with them.
That is heartwarming. That yeah, they're nice people and they're really smart.
Yeah, it's been fun. You don't think of a bunch of historians getting together and really having a good time, but we do. It's interesting.
No, I can totally see it because I started my career in science. And when we would all get together, we would just be a bunch of science geeks talking about science. And my husband would come sometimes. He'd be like, no, I'm not coming next time because you're with your people. You have fun with your people. And then I'll see you another time.
Exactly, exactly.
Any group that's excited about a subject will have tons to talk about, right?
And I try to keep my podcast different. I do have the history BA, but my career was something different. So I try to make the podcast more like me. And we talk about the historian's work, whether they're a broadcaster or an author or a professor. And we talk about their work as well as talk about them. And I guess from the feedback I get, I bring up the human component of it. And like you say, we all just want to have a good time. And it's kind of fun. I had one email saying, I've never heard a historian giggle before. So, and nothing against the people that, there is a place for everybody at the table, really. But I just like to bring my own personality in, and we really do have a lot of fun doing these.
That does sound like it. Very cool. My grandfather, I think, was the one or the first person that instilled my love of PBS. So I've been watching that channel for a long time, and a lot of people watch that channel. But he was kind of the first one I remember. My parents probably didn't have time to sit down and watch TV, but when I was with him, he did. So that's what we watched. That and yeah.
My husband, yeah, my husband is British, so they have a huge component of British television on there. But even before I met him, I would watch those British TV shows. So, then I met him. So it's all kind of worked out for us.
Yes, and I'm definitely telling my mother-in-law about this podcast because she loves all things like Tudor, Anne Boleyn. I'm sure she's already got it on her record schedule, so she'll be excited as well.
It should be really good. I actually have not seen it yet, but it's in 3 parts. It's going to be like a doc. The best way I know how to put it is a drama documentary. They talk to historians, so they have what's known to be documented, what we actually do know, but then they have actors acting out the parts of the historical figures. So it was a huge hit in the UK, and I'm anxious to see how it does here because Anne Boleyn's family was extremely ambitious. And of course, Americans see nothing wrong with being ambitious. So I wonder if it's going to make some people change their mind about her and her family after we see it from that point of view. So I'm very curious about that.
That sounds interesting. I wouldn't have thought about that because yes, and it makes complete sense to Americans, but maybe to British that is not a positive trait.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think most people admire people that go for what they want, but I would say that's really more of an American trait than anywhere else because we're known for getting what we want and being driven, and other people are too, but that's kind of the American thing.
Well, that's how we got here, right? Because
Yeah, exactly.
we
We
didn't
wanted
want
something better.
what was presented us, so we just came and made our own country, for better or worse, right?
Yeah.
That we can get in a whole ball of ethics and morality there, but we won't go there. This is yeah, skip. This is my favorite question to ask authors slash historians like yourself. What do you want people to get from whether they're reading your book, reading your magazine, what do you want them to experience from that?
I want to give them something new, something different. And actually, I want people to realize that history isn't just a bunch of dates that they have to memorize, that learning history and finding out about history is actually fun. So if there was one thing, that would be it, that history is fun.
And definitely sounds like you've made history very fun. And it's funny that you said that about you can't believe you're a podcaster because you're Southern. Is it because, like, to me, your Southern accent doesn't sound very Southern, but I'm from Georgia, so I have that context of, yeah. So but I lost my accent because people said I was cute and I didn't want to be cute. So
yeah, well, I'm 6 feet tall, so they're not really going to tell me I'm cute. So I don't have to worry about that. But I've actually tried to keep my accent. I'm from Tennessee, and Tennessee and Georgia have very similar accents, but I have tried, people have along the way attempted to get me to drop it. And I'm surprised I don't sound British because I've been married for 23 years to a British guy. But, I'll, like if you met me in an elevator, if I said, "How are you?" it sounds like I'm British. Or if I get in an Uber, it's like, "How are you today?" They think I'm British. But then when I start talking, I'm not. So I've just decided to keep it.
Well, it sounds like maybe you put on your different personas for different cases. Like you don't know the person, you're going to sound British. But if you're more comfortable and when I talk to my sister, I sound more Southern because she's talking Southern, then I just feed off of her. But that's the only time. So
it is the weirdest thing. I'm so glad you mentioned that because when we are in Tennessee, I have more of a Tennessee accent. I go into that hard Tennessee, we say 9 and 5, and they don't really do that in Georgia. And my husband does that when he goes back to Glasgow. You would think my husband, he sounds like James Bond. He's very polished, very British. He's good looking. And then when he goes to Glasgow and talks to his family and friends, he has that Glaswegian accent that sometimes I don't actually understand what they're saying. But I'm sure they don't understand me either.
I'm very much that way. So it sounds like, yeah, I pick up what I hear and then I mirror it back. So, well, it's been such a joy to have you. And I'm so excited to discover all things Tudor.com, the podcast, the Facebook page, the magazine. I will be your next fan. So thank you so much for being here and sharing all your work with us. Again, Deb Hunter. And you said you write under a different pen name. Is that true? Or
I have used the pen name Hunter Jones in the past simply because people tend to pick up books that are written by men. But I've decided that I don't want to use a pen name anymore. I don't have to put on a male persona just to sell a book. I can do it as my female self. And everything I write now is under Deb.
Okay, so Deb Hunter, I'll see you in my dreams. That's under Deb Hunter. Awesome. So people will find you. I'll see you in my dreams. USA Today bestselling author. Thank you for being here. I feel so honored. I feel like I have a star in my living room or my office, I guess.
You're so sweet. Thank you. And I have had the best time. It's been great talking to you.
You as well, Deb. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye.